Cosmic Awareness Spiritual Development Course, Volume Number 4, In the Sea of the Moon Child, The Imagination, Lesson Number 1. This lesson concerns the nature of imagination on the natural, historical, social, and personal levels. Cosmic Awareness. This awareness indicates that in the beginning, which is ever present, but before there was image, there was a clarity. This likened unto a screen of crystal clarity which was and is consciousness or awareness, which is the spirit which had and still in some places has no image projected upon it, or emanating from it, or permeating through it. The clarity being that which has no concept of distance, space, or time, for its essence was nothing other than pure beingness, the being without any object of being, wherein the question would never occur as to ask, quote, "What are you being?" or "What is it being?" For it simply was an action of being. This awareness indicates this as the beginning, which is now. The beginning of forms does come from this level of being, and this level of being ever and always is now. Never was, and never will be, but simply is. This level of being is that force known as antimatter, known as akasha, known as spirit, known as universal or cosmic consciousness. This as the being of the universe, and this being is that which is likened unto the screen on which the movie of life and forms are shown. Yet this screen, as one which is not on a flat plane as in your movie theaters, nor confined to a space of 3 dimensions, but permeates in all directions and grows according to the consciousness which perceives its boundary. This awareness indicates that the 4th dimension being that of growth as compared to the 3rd dimension, which is measured by height, depth, width, or the 2nd dimension, which is seen as a plane. This 4th dimension grows like a tree or any other living creature, but on the level of akasha is any size that the center point, which would perceive size, can perceive. In other words, however large you can imagine your universe to be, that is how large it will be for you. For you are creating the size from its energies and its inherent nature, which is but consciousness, the same substance which you use to examine and explore it. This 4th dimensional quality of growth or expansion is found in all living things, and to some degree, all things contain life, even though these things may appear to be dead. This awareness indicates that the substance which allows that growth factor, as compared to the static factors, which are seen in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd dimensional concepts, wherein there is a maintenance of size or experience. This 4th dimensional factor is that which is consciousness. And when consciousness enters into any form, or any substance, or any idea, and begins to grow, that growth factor from this 4th dimensional factor that growth substance then begins to expand the idea, expand the experience, expand the matter, expand the substance, or expand the thing so that another perceiving that from another outside source would look and say, quote, "Look, see, it is growing," end of quote. That in terms of the natural flow of this energy, which is consciousness, which is antimatter or spirit, this antimatter is capable of being any size, any shape, anything it can perceive itself to be. But in order for it to be anything, it has to have something which it can reflect from, or can be in contrast to. In this manner and for this reason, in the beginning, God, the Spirit, created a division of the waters of heaven into light and darkness, into radiance and magnetism. A portion of consciousness began to expand, and another portion, being the water, began to contract, even as raindrops are formed in your skies. These two actions of expansion and contraction of consciousness began to occur, and this occurs continuously, moment to moment, even as this awareness now communicates with you. As this begins to occur, wherein the expansion and the contraction are occurring simultaneously, the appearance of differences can be discerned by one about the other. Thus, the area which is contracted feels itself to be more centered, and the area which is radiant feels itself to be more spacey, more spread out. As this is intensified, the area which is centered eventually can be referred to as the, quote, self, and the area which is spaced out, which permeates outward, can be referred to as the, quote, greater self, the great spirit, or as the other than self. This awareness indicates that in the action of imaging, the center can then begin to look at the other than self and can project through the focusing action a division, which repeats the original action whereby God divided the waters. And this center, be it man or God or demon or whatever, can also create concepts or images which condense or expand, which contract or radiate, and in this manner duplicates the original action. This awareness suggests that before moving further into this duplication and the multiplicity of this duplication, whereby the billions of images are created, this awareness wishes to take you back to the original division of waters of heaven, the waters of Akasha. This awareness suggests that you visualize yourself as being but a drop of water floating in a universe wherein no other forms exist. That you now visualize yourself as this drop of water, being sensitive and having certain amount of feeling within, even as you presently have as an entity. but these feelings having no connection with any forms or any images, any pictures, any thoughts, words, or ideas. Visualize this drop of water as simply being that which feels itself vibrating as a drop of water. Now visualize that this drop of water is not the usual water, but is a water likened unto electrical, wherein there are certain vibrations which light and sparkle and touch one another. Visualize yourself as a being which is drawing inward and which on its outer periphery is shining and glowing with brilliance from contact with the radiant energy. Now visualize yourself becoming more and more centered, drawing in from that radiant energy more and more of the electrical forces which make up your being as a center. This awareness now suggests that you move in the other direction and visualize yourself giving away all of that which you drew towards you, and that you now visualize yourself emanating energy outward, glowing outward like a sun, giving forth all that you have, giving forth all that you are, spreading out and becoming equated with everything that you touch, and having no center left from whence to emanate, but simply being that which is wherever it is found. This as likened unto ice melting in water. This awareness indicates that you have now moved back from the magnetic side into the radiant side, wherein there is no self, but the greater experience of all. That wherein you, as an emanating and radiant force, flow out in all directions, likened unto an ocean of consciousness. You may now look and perceive a certain point before you, which is drawing energy toward it, drawing forces to it. And in drawing these forces, it is beginning to center itself before you and draw from you certain portions of your being, which makes you feel light and buoyant as it becomes heavy and dark, and as it collects greater and greater energies from you. This awareness indicates that you have now looked at the division of the waters from both sides, both the material and the spiritual, the magnetic and the radiant. That you have simply shifted your outlook from one set of eyes into another, from one experience into another. And that the division of the waters of Akasha has created for you the possibility of experiencing different aspects of yourself from different viewpoints of your eyes, from different viewpoints of your experience, so that you can look out at yourself from the realm of matter and magnetism, or you can look inward at yourself from the area of radiance toward the magnetism, or you can simply feel the totality and space out, feeling those portions of magnetism as sensitive parts of your body, as cells of your being, as entities within the body of your consciousness. This awareness indicates that having looked at the division of waters of Akasha, we may now move back to that point wherein this is duplicated, whereby the portion which became the centered self repeated the process and created another division, and in another creation, the possibility of three. A trinity is formed, which allows an even more complex involvement and experience for your being. This awareness indicates that moving from this trinity level, the fire, the water, and the offspring air, the trinity being that which is still in the abstract and without form. This trinity is capable of producing a fourth offspring, which brings about a stability and a form of grounding, or anchor point, which allows maintenance, the holding action. This awareness indicates that the fire water of Akasha, the water of self, which may also on some levels appear as fire, a glowing light, and the offspring, air, which is vibration that fluctuates between these elements of spirit, Akasha or magnetism, water. This offspring, air, the vibration which may be equated with the ripples of a pool wherein a stone is dropped, the pool being the spirit, Akasha, the stone being the magnetism, the central self, and the vibration being the ripples between. The vibration equating to air or mind, the relationship that can be bridged through these ripples. These three, being the Trinity, make possible the relationship of more complex experiences to follow. And in this action, mind and centerings begin to work together, using spirit and form, that which is called imagination. This being formed by collecting magnetic energies into concepts and holding those as one in a stable manner, the image being held, then being brought into contact with other images held, even though these collectively, or these images, may be nothing but dots in consciousness. These dots added to one another gradually begin to take on shapes, which then become images having their own peculiar and particular shape, and the substance which relates back and forth, the ripples of the pool, known as mind, has the capability of naming or conveying in some manner a quality that calls this shape, this image, by some form of catch-all term, which allows that entire image to be sucked down into a small vault, put away into the storage of the magnetic self, or brought back by the issuance of that term into the screen to be reviewed. This quality being called the Word, the mind, which is capable of working with the images to store these images in small letters, words, concepts, sentences, books, or whatever, to be released back into the screen of consciousness whenever. These then begin to accumulate in a contagious manner, whereby the images are played one upon another, with words naming each and words being repeated upon each and bringing forth more images until the perceiver has called forth before his or her being so many images through these words that it is beginning to perceive nations of images, clusters of images, forms, colors, and all types of shapes. These all being nothing but parts of the Magi nation, created by words, magnetism, and clusters of energies. This awareness indicates that the continuous reinforcement of these images begins to convince the perceiver that the images have substance and reality apart from the action of the perceiver. Yet, in reality, the perceiver and those like him are the creators of these objects of view. This awareness indicates that you may now visualize clusters of eyes staring in the darkness of consciousness, and these eyes looking at one another, wondering, quote, "Which one of you created me?" Wondering, quote, "Am I really seeing eyes or not?" Wondering, quote, "What is that looking back at me? Is that my imagination, or is it real?" Wondering, how did I get to be here with those eyes staring at me? This awareness indicates that the Magi nation is a nation using the waters of Akasha to create itself, and from this creation to continue moving into more and more experiences. And yet this land of the Magi nation is nothing but a collection of consciousness being played upon a screen of Akasha in the theater called the universe. And you are all such stuff as dreams are made of. Yet, even the complexity of your dreams, the details and colors and feelings within your dreams, the show, the play, the game, all of these are sacred and as significant and as meaningful as in any portion of this awareness or the Akashic sea. As an individual, whatever this awareness has said from its viewpoint is nothing other than an expression of yourself, for you are this awareness and have journeyed with this awareness in the movement of imagination, in creating yourself as you are, to be what you are at this moment, and to change into what you shall be in the next moment. This awareness indicates that in the beginning, you created the heavens and the earth, and divided the waters, and set forth all things as they are in your consciousness, according to the attitudes and relationships with others, that your relationship with others may be viewed from the attitude of being a separate entity, or from the attitude of being the same entity as all others. And with the attitude you choose, you create your world, your heaven, or your earth, and wherein you choose, you may set aside the Sabbath and rest, for your work is good. This awareness suggests that the action of the imagination, coupled with the direction from the mind using words, is creating a heaven or hell, or any states of purgatory, limbo, or whatever in between. This awareness suggests that you image that which you wish to experience, and use the law of description to carve it out and to place it in the magnetic files for recall, and that in time, when you have incorporated this into your being, you shall reap your reward exactly as you have created it. This awareness indicates that this is the conclusion of this first lecture on imagination as a comfort zone, as the source of much of your being.